you are currently 40 years old, there are only 25 annual planning sessions until you retire. It's not really a lot if you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to leave a great impact. The point is, the best time to start is now. Spent Easter in Margaret River. A great place. If ever you make it to Western Australia, or if you're a local, you would obviously know the delights of Margaret River. It's famous for its wines and its surfing, and to be honest, the whole southern region of our state, a lot of people head down to spend time there. Strongly recommend Margaret River as a destination, and perhaps trying out some of the Margaret River wines. I'm seeing a lot of talk of the Boston Marathon, which ran a couple of days ago on social media. A lot of friends are doing it, a lot of support. It's been 6 years since I ran the Boston Marathon, and I so wish that I was doing it again. It was one of the great experiences of my life, really. I saw an article about how athletes age, and over time how the health of a person, if they have been an athlete, pretty much their health goes straight along and then it drops down and then they pass away or they die. When you look at someone who isn't an athlete and they haven't been sufficiently active, the health tracks along and then it declines over a long period of time. So effectively what it's saying is that the more active you are, the healthier you are, the better health outcomes you're going to have. So it looks a bit like this. If we've got health and time, a person who's an athlete is going to go something like that. They're going to have good health, tracking along, and then it's going to decline. Whereas someone who isn't an athlete or is not physically looking after themselves, they're going to track a little bit like that. So once they've, I guess, passed through their 20s or so, it's just going to be a slow, gradual decline to the point of death. It's a great article, and I'm going to put a link to it below. Take a look at it. It really speaks to why you need to look after yourself today. Short-termism is crippling. Short-term thinking means you can never make the great strides. Short-termism means that you can never solve the big problems because everything that you're working on has to be solved in the next month or 2 or 3, or are you really even thinking a year out? How is it possible to solve big problems like climate change or poverty or diseases if one is only thinking in terms of the next quarter or 2? I mean, we see it so much in our governments. Governments are dictated by the 24-hour news cycle. If you look at the English Premier League soccer, the average coach tenure is 0.8 of a season. The average across all of the coaches, these coaches don't even last a full season. How can you build a great enduring team when you've got 0.8 of a season to do it against the average? It's time that we stop thinking about what we're doing in this very short space of time. obviously we use the Big Hairy Audacious Goal, the BHAG. And the BHAG is a 10 to 30 year goal that you set for the business that is a disciplined, long-term mountain that you're trying to climb. And then when we know where the top of that mountain is, we can set or track our path towards that and ask the question, well, what are we going to do in the next 3 months or next year to get closer towards that Big Hairy Audacious Goal? But if you never think further ahead, you can't plan further ahead. A Big Hairy Audacious Goal must reinforce the business fundamentals. It must reinforce your purpose, the reason that the business exists. It must reinforce your profit per X, so that is the economic engine of the business. It must reinforce the business's economic fundamentals, and we want to have more X's in terms of profit per X. And then thirdly, it must reinforce and be driven or driving your brand promise. The brand promise is that which you inherently promise to your customers that you will deliver to meet that customer's need. And when I say that customer, I specifically mean what we call a core customer, a person who will pay more for your good or service, and therefore you'll make more profit because they value your good or service more than simply being a commodity. In other words, you are enacting your strategy, a valuable and unique position in the market to this core customer, and that is measured by delivering on the brand promise. So the Big Hairy Audacious Goal brings together these three elements into what we call a hedgehog. And the reason that we call it a hedgehog, it comes from a Greek parable, the Greek parable of the hedgehog and the fox. The strategy of the fox is to be cunning and to be everywhere and to be trying to a whole range of different things to be successful, whereas the strategy of the hedgehog is simple. The hedgehog just bends over and the spikes protrude and it wins every single time, and it feeds on ants. So that's a pretty simple strategy there. So the hedgehog strategy is simple and completely effective. So when we have the intersection of the purpose and the brand promise and the profit per X, those three things I mentioned earlier, that is called the hedgehog. And then when we project the hedgehog out 10 to 30 years, that becomes the BHAG. So we can't talk about a Big Hairy Audacious Goal in the context of a 2 or 3 or 5 year goal. That is something completely different. The Big Hairy Audacious Goal must answer the question, when we understand our hedgehog, if we project that out and if we successfully implemented our hedgehog continuously over this 10 to 30 years, select one between 10 and 30 years period, that is the destination that this discipline will take us to. And that's what when we're talking about a truly great business, that's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to enact a successful strategy with discipline over a long period of time. And that's why it's big and hairy and audacious. That's why it's such a dramatically big thing, and there is only a 75% chance. And when we determine the Big Hairy Audacious Goal, there's a very good chance that there'll be people who will be within the business looking at it saying, I think you guys are a bit crazy. I don't think there's any chance that we're going to be able to achieve that. That's when you know you've quite possibly got it right. And then if you think about that mountain, the Big Hairy Audacious Goal draws you up to it. The virtue that it exists compared to not having a Big Hairy Audacious Goal and just simply operating, it gets you to work on the right things to get to that point time and time again. There's another vlog that I've posted called Healthy, Wealthy and Wise. Again, I'll put that in the link below. But this talks about the areas of healthy, wealthy, wise, happy, great family. What is the long-term goal that you're trying to achieve in terms of, for example, your health? If we ate the way that most businesses think or plan in really worrying about just this month, we would be all eating chocolate, eggs or junk food for every single meal. You can't think only short term. We need to step out of the office environment, go to a different place and contemplate, what does the future look like? Cameron Herod calls this his painted picture. Obviously we use the Big Hairy Audacious Goal. The more clarity we can get around the future that one wants to build, the better. You can't, and that's just in business, but this applies to everything really. It could be your own personal investing, your personal health, whatever it is. You've got to think longer term. You've got to be able to push out well and truly past the next week or month or quarter and even year to really do the things that need to be done that take a long time. You wouldn't exercise without endorphins if you didn't enjoy it and know that there wasn't a long-term benefit. Are you living an unhealthy life in terms of your health? Are you eating badly? Are you not exercising at all? Well, if you are putting effort into those areas, that's probably for long-term benefit, and therefore maybe you need to put more effort into other parts of your life for the long term. I've spoken to you before about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the 4 quadrants. Are you working on the things that are urgent and important, or not urgent and important, or not urgent and not important, or urgent and not important? This is Stephen Covey's time management matrix. So what you can see here, we have 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, working on things that are urgent and not urgent, things that are important and not important. Most people spend their time working on things that are urgent and important, putting out fires. We need to spend more time on things that are important and not urgent, because the things that are important and not urgent are the things that make a significant difference in the long term. If we're spending all of our time on the urgent and important in quadrant 1, we're going to have stress, burnout, a whole range of problems. If we spend more time in quadrant 2, which is capability building, relationship building, ensuring that we are building things out for the long term, we will see those successes play out over time rather than spending more time in quadrant 1. So we need to take from the quadrant 1 to spend more time in quadrant 2. If I said to you, what do you want to be doing and what do you want to be different in your life in 10 years' time, say in 2027 or 2028, you might say, well, I don't know, I can't even think that far ahead. And then you might joke saying, well, I can't even think about next week, let alone 10 years into the future. If I was to ask you, what do you hope your legacy to be, or what do you hope your impact to be on your colleagues or your children or your friends or your not-for-profit or whatever it is, maybe that would be an easier question to answer, and then you can work backwards from there. Short-termism is the enemy of building a great entity, be it a government, be it a country, be it a business, or just be it a life. Short-termism will not give you anything that you're really looking for, and you've got to endeavour to avoid it at all costs. The way to avoid it is to get clarity around that legacy, get clarity around the BHAG, get clarity around the difference that you want to make in the world, and then start working on it. Understand, as simple as that sounds, understand all of the steps that you need to take to get there in the longer term, and then ask yourself, well, what do I need to do to get closer to that 10-year goal in the next 90 days? And then the next 90 days, and then the next 90 days.